can't believe it's the 10th episode already. I feel like it's just yesterday that I started these podcast episodes, and now we are on episode 20. 10. Welcome back to the Yarn Chicken podcast. My name is Elizabeth, and today I have a bunch of interesting whips, 1 finished object, and 2 purchases. So let's start with the finished object. Last episode I showed you my Juicy Fruit Mittens by KnittingLotta, and I was just about finished with the first. I had to finish the thumb, and I had come to about the halfway point of the mitten and needed to finish the second thumb as well. And now they are finished. I uploaded a video about the process, so project vlog, just a few days ago, if you want to check it out. But this project was honestly such a great start to 2026 because they are great, they look gorgeous, they feel great. I felted them so they are a bit more wind resistant than if they weren't. The fit is good, not great. It's a bit too big so far because the portion up here is quite wide. Down here it's quite narrow because you start with a smaller number of stitches and then you increase for the thumb gusset. And then once you've finished the thumb, you have the full circumference of the stitches around the fingers. But if you look at my hand, you see that my widest point is around the base of my little finger. And then they taper in. So I feel like I need to sort of splay out my fingers to keep the mitten on, because my actual fingers, when I relax, are like this. So what I decided to do is refelt them once this season is over, because I'm using these daily. It's still very much winter in Sweden. It is snowy outside. It's been snowing on and off for the last few days, and I really don't want to be without these for a day while they dry. And also, since I felted them once and that was a success, I don't know if I have the felting gods on my side, and if I mess these up after having them for just 2 weeks or a week, I would be heartbroken. So I'm not going to potentially mess these up just yet. I'm going to do that at the end of the season. So I will wash them and refelt them at the end of the season, and then pack them away safely for next year. I knitted them in the Rauma finull in white and dark yellow. I don't know what the actual colorway is, but white and yellow, on a 2.5mm circular needle, because I wanted to try my hand at magic loop in small needle circumferences. Didn't really like magic loop for that end goal, and I think I thought ahead on the first mitten. So down here at the border, the tiny lemon slices, I think I actually inverted my colours. So the yellow was my background colour and the white was my dominant. So here the white middle pith situation is clearer than on the other mitten, where I think I held the yellow as my dominant all the way through. So it's a tiny difference that I noted once and then never really thought about again until just now. So great start to the year. Highly recommend KnittingLotta as a designer. I love her patterns. They are so creative, they are so fun, and her as a person, the tiny interaction that I had with her at the yarn festival where I bought this pattern, and also when I contacted her last year with a pattern question. So I was on my way somewhere and I brought my knitting and I just had the thumb left and I didn't have the chart for the thumb. I thought that I had taken a picture of it, but it turned out that I hadn't, and I just left the paper pattern at home. So I actually contacted her and asked her if she would kindly send me just the thumb, and she did, and helped me and asked me very kind questions about if I needed any help or anything. So highly recommend her. Really, really great stuff. I'd recommend the pattern too. Then I had another work in progress last podcast, and it's still a work in progress. This is my Wanderer pullover. It is finished-ish and blocked. So last time, how far had I come last time? I was on the yoke, I think, but I finished the yoke. I did a 1x1 2-color rib for the collar. I did a little bit of a short row situation for the back, so the neck is a bit higher than the front. And then I finished it with a rolled hem in a contrasting colour, which is not at all what is on the sleeves, but I really like this contrasting colour against my partner's skin. It looks great. So this I blocked and found out that the sleeves, which were a problem child because they were too wide last time before blocking, they were quite wide and looked a bit boxy, and the tapering didn't look very elegant. It looked quite harsh in this. Hang on. So it's knit from the cuff up, and when the increases stop and you just continue straight, I felt like it looked a bit bulgy and not in a cute way. So I hoped that it would even out in blocking, but I was quite certain that I would have to reknit the entire sleeve in a smaller needle size, because the circumference is already given in the raglan seam, so I couldn't decrease the number of stitches without it looking very, very strange. So I thought that I would decrease the needle size and reknit with the same stitch number. But then I blocked it, and the the circumference of the arm is now fine, but it is very much too long. I had my partner try it on. Just look at it. It's ridiculously long. I had my partner try it on, and this is where he wants the cuff to hit. So at a relaxed position, he wants the cuff to hit about here so that he can stretch out. Both of us are tall people and are used to sleeves sort of riding up, and if you have the option to have that customized, I think it's a great thing to have it customized, because he's not used to it. I mean, I always keep my arms pushed up anyway, but he doesn't, so he would like something that covers his arm when he actually reaches for stuff, and that would be right there. So all of this is excessive length. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of surgery. I'm going to place a lifeline up just below the armpit and a lifeline at this length below, and then I will sew it together and take out that middle portion. I think it should be fine. I think I have enough length between, hang on, do I? Yes. So in comparison, this is where the decreases, is it? This is where the increases stop, and all of this is just stockinette straight without increases, and this is the amount that I need to take off. So that is my next step, and this of course does mean that I wasn't able to finish it a month after Christmas, which was my initial goal. My first goal was obviously to finish it for Christmas, but that failed because the construction was wrong and the size was wrong, and I made mistakes, and then I reknit it, like this, which I'm very happy with, but I wasn't able to have it finished completely for the 24th of January. Today is the 26th, payday for me in Sweden, which is nice. But I am going to shorten these ASAP, because if I don't, this is not going to get any use before October, which would be unfortunate because it's great. These colours look absolutely smashing on my partner. I'm so proud of him for picking out such great colours. Obviously, he has an eye for it, and that makes me happy. Oh yeah, and that is the Wanderer pullover by Rachel Brockman. I knit it on a 3.5 and 4mm needle in the Sandnes Garn Alpakka and Alpakka Ull. So the brown is just alpaca, 100%, and the red, the aubergine and the off-white are alpaca wool. So 60% alpaca and 40% wool, I think. So it's a bit thicker than the 100% alpaca, but the alpaca is so soft. And since I grossly overestimated the number of skeins that I would need for this, balls, I actually have some of it left, and I think I could knit myself either a sweater vest, just a plain stockinette one, or might even have enough for like a slim fitting undershirt situation. And in this alpaca yarn, it's going to be so warm and comfy and great. So good for me. I don't have any of the red left, and I have very little of the white left too. So this was a great estimation, at least for the white and the aubergine. The brown I overestimated, but rather overestimating than underestimating. And since I already had a bunch of dye lot issues, I'm sure I can make something work with these little inconsistencies in dye. So the yarn is actually secondhand sorted because of the dye lot differences or the dye inconsistencies within the same dye lot. So it was a lot cheaper, and that's why. Next up, I have a finished object that I actually didn't show you in my last podcast. Last time I spoke about this was in the autumn, September, I think, and it is the Pastel Rainbow Baby blanket or something. This is, hang on, I showed you the wrong side. This is a free pattern, I think, and I can't remember the name of the design. I looked it up and then it just completely slipped my mind who it was by. I will have put it up on screen anyway, but this is a very simple stitch repeat. You create waves by doing yarn overs and knit two togethers in clusters, and then you do a stockinette stitch between, and then you have a garter stitch border between the coloured sections. And since the waves ripple between the white portions, it makes the white portions ripple as well. So this looks a lot more intricate than it actually is. And I used a bunch of sock scraps for this. All of these, except for the white, are scraps from my own hoard. And some of these are one singular colour. So these greens, for example, are just some yarn that I had in the right quantity. But the yellow, for example, is a mix of a bunch of different light yellows. So some of the balls that I had left, some of the yarn that I had left from other sock projects were from self-striping socks, and they start with a stark yellow portion, so you can find the beginning of the work, so you know where to start your sock to make them exactly the same. And those yellow bits I just saved, which is a thing to do, but I saved them and I knitted them into the yellow portion. And something similar with the purple, because I had a bunch of differently coloured yarns with purple in it. And I used to love purple as a child. I had my room painted purple and then I just completely went off it. Purple used to be what green is to me now. I love green and I just sort of made the switch from purple to green when I think I was 10 or 11. Everything that was purple became green and it has been ever since. But this yellow stripe is then also consisting of a bunch of different scraps from those colour changing balls. This light blue is something similar, so some of the purple and some of the light blue were in the same balls, but I just cut them up and sewed in a bunch of ends. And then I ended it with the two greens again. So this is going to be blocked to let the stitch pattern sort of bloom and to straighten out the border a bit. And then I have 3 ends to weave in. I thought that I had woven in all of the ends yesterday, but there are 3 little pesky ones left. And then this is ready to be gifted. I knitted this for 2 friends who are starting IVF and they hadn't asked for it and they don't knit or crochet or anything, so this being sock yarn felt appropriate because they are just going to be able to chuck it in the washer. If this happens to go in the dryer, it's not going to be absolutely disastrous. So I want to give them something that is easily taken care of for them in the new chapter in life with a baby. Is it getting too dark? Will I ruin everything if I turn on the ceiling lights? Maybe, but also probably not. And the rainbow baby blanket I knitted on a 4 or 4.5mm needle. I took the amount of yarn that I had the least of and calculated how many stitches I could fit for the number of rows that I wanted per colour, and then I knitted a border with the same needle size around it in just a garter stitch with little increases at the corner so it wouldn't sort of collapse into each other. But otherwise I followed the pattern except for the fact that I did the borders differently. The next project is also something that I didn't show you last time around because I hadn't cast it on yet. I actually cast this on at the end of last week, so Thursday or Friday, because I looked at my schedule for the coming day at work and I saw that I had 2.5 hours of back-to-back meetings where I wasn't presenting or taking notes. I was just listening and stating opinions. And if I have 2.5 hours at work, I need to knit because otherwise I'm not going to be able to keep track of my thoughts. And I knew I needed something simple, preferably something without a pattern, because that's just disrespectful for me to take out a pattern and refer back to it while people are talking about important things. So I took the yarn that my partner and I bought over New Year's when we were in Tromsø in the northern part of Norway, and I cast on a scarf for him. A simple garter stitch scarf with an I-cord edge on each side. And this is it. I held 2 yarns together, the Lang Yarns Yak in a lovely rusty orange colour with a little bit of a mild colourway, and the Malabrigo mohair in iris. I will leave the colourway somewhere because I cannot remember it. A lovely murky purplish to greeny colourway, and it makes this lovely interesting combination. And I knit as far as the Malabrigo would take me. I hung it up to dry because I wanted it to stretch out a bit, and it's a bit damp still, and I will have my partner try it when he comes home. And if it's too short, because it was too short before I hung it up, if it's still too short, then I'm going to buy another skein of the Malabrigo or something similar, because that was quite pricey, to continue a little bit. And if it's way too short, then I will buy another ball of the Laine Yarns Yak as well, because this should be something that he can use. If it's too short, he won't use it. And I wanted to go on a yarn no-buy, and I have been since, I don't know, for a few weeks, 3 weeks or something. But leaving this unfinished feels very silly for the sake of a no-buy. So if it needs more yarn, then I will buy it and restart the no-buy. The goal is still to, at some point during 2026, have a 3-month-long no-buy for yarn. And this could potentially be what stops me this time around. But I'm very pleased with the results so far. I mean, maybe not with the length, but I'm very pleased with how neat the I-cord is. The garter stitch is very easy and very squishy. The yarns have bloomed beautifully as well, and I think I would definitely steal this from my partner if he wasn't wearing it. So this is 24 stitches with a border of 3 I-cord stitches on each side. Garter stitch, so just knit all across, and I knit this on my 4mm needles. I think so, 4mm. And it took me a day and then some. So my 2.5 hours at work, and then the day, all of Saturday, because I was hanging out on the sofa watching the Marcia Longa, and then we had a friend over, and after dinner we just chatted for like 5 hours while I was knitting, and it was great. So 2 nearly finished objects for my partner, which is very exciting. I'm very happy to have a knit-worthy partner and to knit fun things. And can you believe that that is my first scarf ever? I think that in the 20 odd years that I have knitted, I haven't knit a single scarf. So I think that might very well be my first one. And it's fitting. Or I think it's lovely that the first scarf I ever knit is for my partner. So those are my works in progresses that are nearly finished. I had a goal for January to finish as many of my hibernating whips as possible. I wanted to keep my focus on the old whips, but then I had an idea for a pair of socks. I want to make a pair of socks that look like you're looking out into a rainy February morning, because I have the perfect yarn for it, and I want to incorporate beads as the raindrops. And I was thinking about writing up a pattern for this as well, because one of my goals for 2026 is to release a knitting pattern, and I have some grander ideas in mind, but I can't just start with the biggest project. I think I need to sort of ease into it and see if I even like writing patterns, if that makes sense for me, or if it's just a one thing that I wanted to try once. So I did allow myself to cast on a new pair of socks. So this is the Viking Garn Alpaca Storm. Is it Alpaca Storm? I'm looking at the label on the sofa, and it's upside down, and I'm wearing glasses, so I can't really see. But I think it's the Alpaca Storm. It's very soft. So this is the base colour, and for my contrasting colour, I have this lovely dusty light blue, and I have a bunch of glass beads. and I've strung them up. This sweater, of course, is very fitting for this project as well because it does incorporate glass beads. I was looking for these beads to string up on this, but then I found blue beads instead. I don't remember why I bought them, but I have opened it and I have used some of the beads because some of the wells were half empty. So I just strung up a bunch of bluish, white beads and will be knitting window panes with this and hopefully writing up a pattern. So this is my current absolute obsession, and it's going to be fairly easy, I think, to actually keep on the go. So, and since it's just a sock that I know how to knit, I don't think that I will have to be I don't think this has to be a super focused knit. But what does need to be a focused knit is my Feelgood trousers by Novita Knits. I cast these on in probably like February of last year. These were intended to be just joggers and they are knitted on a small-ish needle size. I think it's a 3.5. I hope I've written it down somewhere, but what has stopped me is the fact that I came to the point where I wanted to add, not buttons, what are they called? Pockets. I could use a little afternoon snack. I think my blood sugar it's getting low. But the project has stalled for nearly a year because I knit both of the legs and I'm now at the point where I would have to taper off 4 pockets, and I blocked them and found that they are too tight in like around the calf. So I would have to re-knit the lower leg and cuff. I haven't tried them on yet this year, and I know that my body has changed since last year. I am now no longer burnt out, for example, so I'm eating better. I'm also moving my body more, so I'm eating better and more. And I don't know if these still fit, but I have more yarn for them and I have ambitions. So now I just need to figure out what I wanted to do with the pockets, because I had the sneaking suspicion that I did all of the calculations for the pockets and then I saved the calculations on my old work computer, because I think I calculated it on a work trip. So I will have to figure that out, and it's sort of a project now that doesn't spark joy, but I know that it will spark all of the joy to have these and to have them with pockets. So I'm going to bite the bullet at one point or another, fairly soon I think, because I would love to have them finished soon. I don't want these languishing another year in my hoard. And that is it for works in progresses. No, works in progress or work in progresses. Whips. I do have 2 acquisitions, 2 purchases. They are purchases that are made by using a gift card. So for Christmas this time around, my job gave us gift cards and I bought 2 books. I didn't buy the Knitting for Olive pattern book, surprisingly enough. I thought that would be the first one I bought when I went to buy a knitting book, but I didn't. Instead, I bought the 52 Weeks of Socks by Laine, and it's just a cute little book. I borrowed this book a year ago at the library and was so inspired by it, and I wanted to knit all of the socks, but I didn't have the mental capacity to do a more complex sock. And now I do have that capacity, and I want to knit more socks, and I want to knit patterned socks. And since I want to publish my own patterns for socks, I want to see how different designers write their patterns to get to be able to follow what looks clear, what can I explain in a different way, what works better for me, how is the pattern laid out, how does it work. So having this with 52 different designers with different styles, obviously Laine is going to be, they are the editor, so they are going to tech edit and proofread patterns to be similar. So these are not going to be too different, but they're going to be different enough, I think, for me to get a grasp on how different cabling techniques are explained and how different colour work motifs are explained. So this is both for my own personal consumption, because I have like 6 or 7 socks that I immediately want to knit out of this, and also for a sort of literature to do a proper job for releasing a knitting pattern. So this is very exciting. I'm very happy to have had that gift card to be able to buy that. And then this is what I am. I'm so excited about this that I'm not really allowing myself to look in the book, because I will go bananas. This is the 250 Japanese knitting stitches, the original pattern bible by Hitomi Shida. And man, they are... Oh. See, this just makes my brain do all of the lovey, amazed sounds. I can hear my brain doing stuff, and it's just breathtaking. So I have a bunch of patterns in mind that I want to create, but I need to learn how to translate my mind, my mental picture into a knitting pattern. And this, I think, is going to be essential for that, to do a more complicated knitting pattern. And see, it just has gorgeous cables and lace motifs and all of these textures, and they are so intricate, and I want to take off from work and do this for the next 8 weeks. But I can't do that because I have stuff to do. So those are my 2 purchases for this time around. I don't have any purchases planned. I mean, except for maybe more yarn to finish the scarf to make it long enough. But I think it grew a little bit, so I think it should be fine. And now I just want to start knitting on my pattern ideas, because I have so many of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, before you leave, please click the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. I would love to have you for my next 10 episodes, when I actually get to say welcome to my 20th episode of my knitting podcast. I will now go block some things and weave in a few ends and then knit on my little window socks. And you will see what happens with that in my next episode, hopefully coming out in 2 weeks. We'll see. And take care of yourself. Bye. Go drink water.